People often ask me who stands against the national popular vote, and it is only people who are afraid of taking their ideas directly to voters.
Welcome to the Practivist Pod, the practice of activism made practical.
Today, Congress finally passes the Epstein bill, overwhelmingly dealing a huge blow to Trump and a long-awaited win for the survivors. And in another blow to the Trump regime, the Texas gerrymandered maps are struck down. What a week.
Then we hear from veteran campaign consultant and communications expert Alyssa Cass about how we're closer than you think to ditching the Electoral College with the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. I'm Jess Craven.
I'm Steve Pearson.
Oh no, stay strong. It won't be long. Yeah, yeah. We will build a better world.
We are living through a crazy timeline, Steve. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What a week indeed.
Look, I
wow.
like the ups and downs. You know, it's better than all downs. You know, we've been getting some wins of late, and I'm here for it. And I do feel some wind at our backs, and that's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. I actually said to my husband and child yesterday, I feel like we are over the hump. And they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I think we're over the hump of the Trump administration, which doesn't mean it will continue to be hell until he's gone. But I feel that his invulnerability, the veneer of invulnerability, has been cracked, if not destroyed this week. That he's, all powerful and can't be stopped. I mean, the Epstein bill, his absolutely plummeting poll numbers, the election win last week, 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, I think that we're finally seeing, like, this guy can be beaten. He's weak. I think he's weak, Steve.
He is incredibly weak. He is the weakest that I have ever seen him. We have been talking on this show about his, diehard MAGA faithful cracking and the doubt that they've had over Epstein, over immigration even, a lot of this stuff. And we're seeing it come to fruition right now. And, I think one thing, and I probably said this already in a previous show, but, that the election results a couple of weeks did for me is that I turned around from someone who was like, I know my history. I know that we struggle against the forces of evil and that there's a push and a pull and that we will triumph and we will get through this, but I just don't know how. I don't know when, but I'm going to put one foot in front of the other anyway, right? I went from that to there's no way fascism can take hold in our country. There's no way that these asshats who are cosplaying at authoritarianism are going to be able to win over the American public because it's not who we are as Americans, and we absolutely will prevail. And I think a lot of people are feeling that, and Trump is feeling the pressure, and we can jump right in and talk about the Epstein files. Finally, the vote going through with only Clay Higgins. Gotta give it to Clay Higgins, for hanging in there with Trump being the only one to do it. Yeah. What a scumbag. But Trump has had a stranglehold on Republicans, and he lost all of them around this. And of course, finally said, yes, you should release the files after he knew that there was no way that they couldn't vote to do it. And just going to point out again, he has the power to release those files at any point. We didn't have to go through all of this, discharge petition and a 40-plus day government shutdown to keep people from voting on said petition in order for those files to get released.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to wonder, why do you run on something if you don't intend to follow through? Like, let's say Trump is not guilty. Like, let's say that he's guilty by obviously association, but let's say there isn't anything damning in there. Why, or even if there is, why do you run on it and make that a central part of your platform as you run for office and then turn around and do this? Like, I do think that we are defeating him. I agree with you. But he's helped us defeat him. He has made so many unforced errors in this situation, starting with running on releasing the Epstein files and then spending 10 months so obviously doing everything in his power to suppress their coming out. Why would you do that? Just shut up about them. Like, it does not make sense on that level. But then again, like Mike Johnson's sort of obviousness in shutting down the House back in the summer, and then again with this shutdown, like every step of the way, they've made it so clear they were suppressing them. It's just, they're not smart political players. Telling people that we're going to take away your snap during a shutdown and then sort of using that to hold hostages, like over and over again, we just see this really, not only is it cruel and destructive, but like ham-handed political behavior, like just stupid, just like designed to make people hate you. It is a weird thing. I don't understand the political long game at all, other than we're just not going to have elections anymore, which, by the way, we're going to fight like we are going to have elections. Like, they're not going to get away with it. I think that is the thing I've realized this week. Like, I don't think they're going to get away with any of this. I think that they're not going to get away with it. And of course, we all were worried for a while they were. And I don't think they will.
No, I think we toss around the term inflection point many times over the course of Trump v1 and Trump v2 and all of this. But it really feels like that. It feels like this convergence, not just a repudiation of Trump that we saw from the elections, but with finally this win for the Epstein survivors, these victims who have been lobbying Congress, trying to get justice, trying to shed some light on this for years and years and years, through multiple administrations, by the way, what we saw with the Me Too movement, and now, Trump coming in and trying to just dismantle DEI, and how you talk about stupid and ham-handed and showing who you are, the rhetoric he's had with female reporters, and the way he, conducts himself at a time when, we are all standing up and saying enough, not just to this behavior, but to oligarchs, to people who, of enormous power and wealth, who feel like they are above the law and can get away with heinous acts with impunity. It really does feel like an inflection point to me. We have to keep the work going, though. We've been through, times where we've had a big push before, and it hasn't necessarily led to the sea change that we want to see. So it is up to us to, keep making noise, keep putting pressure. Republicans certainly are feeling pressure. Trump is 100% feeling the pressure. So we got to keep on it.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely have to double down right now. And what I do want to urge, I've heard the response to our victory yesterday was, to me, it was really distressingly cynical. Just an immediate avalanche of comments. They're going to burn all the files. They're going to redact all the files. He's going to, declare another investigation, and we're not going to see anything. They're going to get away with it. Nothing will happen. And I understand, I really understand why people have those reactions. And of course, I have those fears myself, but I really want to encourage people to keep embracing your fighting spirit, and remember that we have gotten as far as we have because of the fighting spirit of victims, primarily, and then honestly the lawmakers who we keep demanding lawmakers who will fight. We just got some lawmakers who really threw down for this.
Yep.
And also you and I, the people who made the calls, we made this happen. Trump fought this the whole way. And what makes you think that we're not going to continue to fight? I mean, I really want us to give ourselves more credit. And also, I was on a call this morning, I was telling you before we came on, and I can't say who it was with, but I will just say that it's with some of the people who...
Tell us.
No, I really can't.
I'm
totally
kidding.
off the record. But let's just say it's people who will have a hand in making sure these files actually are released. And I just want people to know that, we've got some real... I don't want to say pit bulls, because pit bulls are actually very peaceful animals, as I have one. But we've got some real fighters in there, and they are not going to accept, they're going to give us a bunch of redacted stuff. The bill was written in such a way that you can't redact everything. That was actually written into the bill. You can redact very narrowly and temporarily, but not forever and not everything. And people say, oh, well, Trump just launched this investigation into Bill Clinton, so that means we're not going to be able to see anything. No, because the bill is written, again, to say you can redact narrowly, so guess what Trump will get to redact? Everything having to do with Bill Clinton. But not everything having to do with Trump. There's no investigation into Trump right now, right? So the people who wrote this bill were smart. The people working on our side are smart. And the final thing I want to say that I found reassuring, really reassuring, is that there are more than one copy of almost everything that's in these files. Not all of it is residing at the DOJ, which is where the corrupt people would probably, do their dastardly deeds.
Reporting has shown that they have been there at the DOJ, spending hours trying to scrub mentions of Trump. So, yeah.
Well, they were sent to find mentions of Trump. I'm a little confused about whether they were actually told to scrub, because that would be obstruction of evidence. And again, that's illegal. So I'm not, we have to remember, and this is some part of what I heard on this call, destroying evidence, burning evidence is highly illegal.
Yeah.
And if Donald Trump were to order people to do that, that's not covered by his Supreme Court immunity. That's not a presidential act. So, and our side is, again, ferocious. They will be looking for that. The judge will be looking for that. And the final thing I'll say is that not only are there copies of things in various places, including overseas, but there are witnesses, there are victims who are alive, many of them. And there are whistleblowers aplenty. And that was something I did not know. There are many, many, many different people, sources from different departments, areas, feeding the investigation information. So let's just say that Trump and his people can try. They may succeed in destroying a little bit of evidence, but A, they will be caught at that. And B, they cannot cover everything. It's in too many places and there are too many people helping this investigation. So please take some comfort from that.
That's very comforting. And public sentiment is everything. So I'll say again, keep being loud about this because, even the appearance of trying to obstruct or block or redact or anything, I think will create a huge uproar, not just from us, but from the MAGA faithful too. I mean, yeah. God, I never thought I'd see Marjorie Taylor Greene standing up there, calling out Trump, and she has her own agenda, of course, but, this is a serious rift. And you said something about some of our Democratic leaders who are stepping up and really fighting for us. Shout out, of course, to Ro Khanna, who was on our show, who was one of the people who spearheaded this effort. But, we talked a lot about as this first, started happening, months ago, a lot of the members of Congress who we feel like weren't meeting the moment. And a lot of them really just weren't built for it. I mean, you have lawmakers who who are lawyers or engineers or have all kinds of backgrounds, served in state legislatures, know how to craft legislation and work, within the halls of government, but they're not organizers. They're not opposition leaders. They're not resistance fighters, and what I have seen over the months is many of those people really stepping up to meet the moment, finding their legs, figuring out, their voices in this moment. And I'll give one example of my personal Congress member, Luz Rivas, who was an engineer. She went to MIT. She served in the California legislature in the assembly. Didn't really face much opposition coming into Congress. So, she's didn't have to really battle in her campaign. She did for her assembly. She mounted a great ground campaign and won a surprising victory there. But she came in ready to craft some policy. She's been great on environmental policy. Like I said, she's an engineer. She's really smart. I saw her take on Mike Johnson in the halls of Congress and demand a meeting as a representative of the freshman California caucus. And it was really impressive. She really has stepped up and met that moment. And I see that from other members too. So just want to shout out to all of our members. It's a diverse group with a diverse diverse skill set, but they really are meeting the moment.
Yeah. And before we move on, I just want to give a little credit to Chuck Schumer, who I'm very hard on, and I think justifiably so. But what he did yesterday was some kind of jujitsu. I don't know how he got that unanimous consent to happen so quickly, but it was him who did that. I don't even know the workings of it yet exactly, but I know that was his call, and it was really smart. It did not give time for Trump to organize any kind of opposition. I don't know what he did there, but I'm seeing over and over again people in the know giving him the credit for that. So I want to acknowledge that as someone who beats up on him all the time. That was well done. That was well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Chuck Schumer. So
wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's going to be our cold open right there.
Yeah, exactly. People are going to spit out their tea. And then we had another big win yesterday, Steve, which we should acknowledge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
you're drinking.
What's that?
Oh, I thought you were drinking. So
I was enjoying the tasty wins and just smacking my lips because the majority of Republican appointed, by the way, Texas federal judges blocked the maps, the gerrymandered maps, as racially gerrymandered maps in Texas, blocking Trump and Abbott's mid-redistricting scheme that set this whole thing off. Of course, we just passed Prop 50 in response to it. So this is, backfiring spectacularly. Now it will be appealed, and it will be appealed likely all the way to the Supreme Court, where they're also hearing a case right now that would gut, the Voting Rights Act, and it's like it's the Calais case that is a backwards racial gerrymandering thing, saying that if you franchise groups that are being disenfranchised, then you're actually, like reverse racism. It's just a crazy argument, but the Supreme Court does seem poised to maybe affirm that argument. So there's a lot of moving parts around this. Here I was celebrating, licking my lips, and now I'm saying that, we have to wait and see what happens. But this is going to put in doubt a lot of the efforts that other states, Republican states, are doing to try to gerrymander too. And because in California, we took it to the voters and had them affirm and approve the maps, it's, not likely to affect what we just did in California. So a pretty big backfire and overreach by the Republicans, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think they only have until December 8th. Like, if the Supreme Court doesn't rule by then they're stuck with these districts for next year, because that's the filing deadline. And you do just kind of love to see Trump bringing chaos. And this is what I hope everybody who is attached to him realizes, is that he will always, always, always fuck you in the end. Like, he brings chaos. He brings confusion. I'm sorry to Steve's mother. He brings illegality, and in the end, it will backfire on you. I don't know why people keep attaching themselves to this man, because it backfires every time. Yeah. And once again, yes, sure, it could get overturned by the Supreme Court, but if it doesn't, it will be the most delicious piece of retributive justice. And by the way, one of the two judges who ruled was Trump appointed, not just Republican, but appointed by Donald Trump. How is that for just perfect?
Sweet literal justice. And just a reminder, too, that the existing maps that they will have to revert to and adhere to are also under judicial review for being severely racial gerrymandered. It's not like those maps are fair maps to begin with. So, again, I feel like there's a reckoning. I'm feeling the wind at our backs, and that should just lift us up. That should send that nice, brisk shiver down our spines to wake us up and have us keep doing the work that we're doing. Because we have a long way to go till the midterm, certainly, but not a long way to go till the Tennessee special election. So that's our to-do list, our chop wood, carry water. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean, Kamala Harris was out there campaigning with Afton yesterday. I think I talked about this race last week, but in case you didn't hear last week's episode, Afton Bain is running in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District. It's on December 2nd. I keep conflating those two numbers. And she's running an amazing campaign. She is out there every single day knocking doors, fighting for health care, fighting to protect the Affordable Care Act, fighting to keep rural hospitals open. She's a great candidate. Her opponent is Matt Van Epps. He's a super duper MAGA. Would not commit to voting to opening the Epstein files when that was still a thing. And, you know, the wind is at our backs. We are winning districts again. I keep seeing new documentation about like districts we won in Georgia by like 22, 25 points. I'm telling you that this seat is gettable. So maybe we won't get it, but we're not going to get it if we don't try. And I swear to God, we can. So I just want everyone to throw down. There's phone banking. I think postcarding is done at this point. They really need phone bankers. So please, please sign up with Afton's campaign to volunteer. They will loop you in, or, you know, sign up with Indivisible. Let's just try. Because honestly, the message it would send to the Republican Party after all the other beatings they have just taken, if we win this election, I think it could be a seismic event in terms of ending Trump's reign of terror. And I know that sounds really sweeping, but it's like we're really chipping away at something here, and this win would possibly be the sort of Jenga tile. Is that the right game that you pull out? Jenga stick, whatever, that topples the whole thing. So just we really need to try to win if we can.
Cook Political Report updated its rating of that race from likely Republican to lean Republican, which is really exciting. And when we look at the overperforming, as you stated, that we've had in all of the special elections, and of course on November 4th, you know, it's definitely winnable, but you know, it won't win itself. So we will have the link to volunteer on our show notes. We want everyone to pitch in a little bit there. And that's a lot of hope. The whole show has been talking about a lot of hope. But
it's all hope.
what's your reason for hope this week, if there's another one?
I mean, I just, you know, I want to just say how very, very proud of everybody I am, because I had a moment this week where I saw like light at the end of the tunnel, and I thought, you know, if and when we get through this, it is the people who have worked every single day of this regime to stop him, that are going to be able to look back and go, holy shit, I got through it and I did that. And I want to send a special shout out right now to the people of Charlotte and other places in North Carolina. I know they are going through living hell right now with ICE. And I see people are organizing, people are putting together school patrols, and, you know, 700 people showed up in a church somewhere to like learn how to help their neighbors. And I love to see this building American response to this fascist regime of neighbors helping neighbors. And so I'm just really proud of everybody. This has been really hard. It's going to continue being really hard, but I'm just really proud to see people rising up in a spirit of community and love to help people who are being attacked by ICE and to help save our democracy. So that was kind of an overall sweeping statement, but yeah, I really wanted to acknowledge Charlotte and the rest of North Carolina right now because they are going through it, and I'm so grateful and proud to see people standing together there in this moment.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
Well, you know, I mean, I can just say ditto, echo your sentiment. We've been talking about it too. I definitely feel the wind at our backs. I'm so grateful to everyone who, when the wind was biting and in our face, put one foot in front of the other anyway, and has been doing this work. So I just want to say, keep it up, everyone. And, you know, I'll tell you one thing, which will be a not so subtle segue into our interview that actually gives me hope, is I've learned a lot about the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact from our interview that we're about to have. And, you know, I think pretty much universally, all of our listeners and many people are done with the Electoral College. We realize how antiquated that is. But what you might not know, what might give you hope, is we are actually very close to passing this compact that would eliminate the Electoral College. So,
yes.
So I am excited. I'll just tease out the interview that way, and thank everyone again for your hard work. And then coming up now is our interview with Alyssa Cass. Alyssa Cass is a partner at Slingshot Strategies and founded its communications practice. She is a leading advisor to top elected officials, candidates, and causes at the national, state, and local levels, and is a key figure in the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact's 50-state strategy. Alyssa, thanks so much for joining me.
It's great to be here. First time, long time.
I love that. I want to get into the National Popular Vote Compact, but before we do, given your great experience as a consultant and campaign advisor on many races, I'd love just to hear your takeaways from last Tuesday's elections.
The takeaways from last Tuesday's elections across New York, New Jersey, and Virginia there were a few through lines. First, voters are rejecting Trump governance 2.0. I think we're seeing that loud and clear. Also, I think what we saw is that when Democrats listen to voters and talk about the issues that are most important to them, and really go out of their way to talk to every voter in those elections, we can win. And that when we come to them with new ideas about how to do things, that this is the moment for them. You know, I'm a big believer in the fact that bad ideas can be no ideas. I think that was a big part of Donald Trump's revival and his win in 2024 across issues. You know, at a moment when the status quo is working for almost no one, coming to the table with the same old, just is a flashing red light to voters that you don't get it or that we don't get it as a party. And in 2024, we had Trump's bad ideas beating sort of none or no ideas from Democrats. Here on last Tuesday, we saw Democrats internalize that lesson and candidates who proffered new ideas won. You had Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey posing a rate freeze in response to rising utility bills. In New York, you had from Zohran Mamdani, freeze the rent, freeze and free buses. And those sort of new ideas that respond to a status quo that's working for no one won the day. And that's part of why I'm so excited about National Popular Vote, which I know we're going to talk about. But it is National Popular Vote is at a sort of a critical part of its story of really being in the fourth quarter, as a response to a system, the current system that is working for no one. So I'll stop there because I don't want to bury your lead, but
no, it was a great pivot.
The sort of it surprised myself as well. I got there naturally. So but it's the same principle that motivates me. I'm really excited to talk about it because I think it is the right moment in our history and in our politics for this thing to get done.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it too, in light of, what we just saw. Obviously, a repudiation on Trump, as you just articulated. You look at where I am here in California and Prop 50's passage with people waiting in line 2+ hours to vote on a ballot measure. So that wasn't even a candidate that was giving them a message. That was just a repudiation of the Trump regime and the Republicans' gerrymandering tactics. You couple that with hope, with a message that, gives people hope for the future and something tangible, like you said. That's what builds a movement. I do want to get in to the National Popular Vote Compact because I'm sure our listeners are well aware of the archaic nature of the Electoral College. But what they might not know is that a solution may be in reach, like you say, in fact, in the fourth quarter. Can you explain the basics of this compact to me as if I'm a podcast host that didn't do my research before the interview.
I'm a PR girl, so I am always taking a less sophisticated approach. So let me talk about what the problem is, and then we'll get into the solution.
Great.
So under the current system, a small number of voters and a small number of states decide the presidency. If you feel like no one's listening to you, or you hear voters saying, no one's responding to me, I feel like my voice isn't heard. It's not because they feel that way. It's because it is the case. In fact, in the presidential election, only 1 out of 5 American votes matter for who the presidency is. That's because, you have presidential candidates who pay close attention to voters and a handful of battleground states. In 2024, almost 97% of all general election events were held in just 7 states. So that's because if you live in a state that isn't, closely divided in terms of partisanship and part of that electoral college path, you're just ignored. So let's talk about what the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact does. So the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact would take effect when states with a majority of the electoral votes, so 270, all take up this bill and say, my state, we are going to assign my electors to whichever nominee, whichever candidate gets the most votes nationally, whoever wins the national popular vote. So basically what that is that the candidate receiving the most popular vote nationwide will be guaranteed enough electoral votes to become the president. So what this does, because our Constitution allows states to assign their electors in any way they see fit. So states can pass a law that says we're going to assign our electors not on who wins in our state, the popular vote in our state, but who wins nationally. And 18 jurisdictions, 17 states, plus the District of Columbia, have already signed this bill into law. That means we have, of the 270 electoral votes we need to turn this compact into reality, we have 209 of 270. And this bill has also, the National Popular Vote bill has also passed in one chamber, in an additional 7, in one or more chambers in an additional 7 states. So, for instance, it's been passed already by both houses in Virginia. Now that there is a Democratic trifecta, that is very exciting. We've seen it move.
How many electoral votes does Virginia have?
Oh, don't make me do that.
Sorry,
I do not know off the top of my head.
That was mean. I didn't know either.
No, that was mean.
You could have just said anything. I would have been like, interesting.
I think it's about 12. Yeah. So now you've made me curious, and so I'm racking my brain. I guessed 11. Let me see how many I was.
11's a good guess.
Let's see how well I do. 13. 13. So my first vote was so that's a 13 electoral votes.
Yeah.
It's gone through both chambers in Michigan, which is obviously a big state and a swing state, and we're seeing momentum in places like Pennsylvania as well. So this isn't a academic pipe dream or some, far-fetched fever dream. This is something that has a movement that has been built with bipartisan support, meaning that in every state that this has passed, it's been passed with Republican and Democratic votes in 18 jurisdictions and an additional 7 where it's moving through the legislative process. So, I'm actually not an optimist. I am not in this environment. I find it very hard to be hopeful, but I do believe that this can really be that 2024, for a variety of reasons that we can get into, is really going to be the last election where we see the president elect chosen under the old system. And I just want to note one thing. What's exciting here is that sometimes it feels like this feels like a big systemic reform, which it would be. But the way it's being accomplished is like we don't have to do a constitutional amendment. We don't have to do something crazy. It's just through this interstate compact. If you've ever participated in the Powerball, that's an interstate compact. And these have been
I have actually, and just last week I won $6. So very exciting.
Oh my gosh, that is so.
I've never won anything.
I think I've won $20, so I've beaten you, but I think both of us got the ride into the deal. But a Powerball is an interstate compact. These exist between states all of the time and have been upheld by very conservative courts and the Supreme Court.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question, actually, is, what would be the legal challenges that, we'd face? I mean, certainly, we have a regime right now that is, not going to favor this action and is going to do whatever it can to keep this from becoming a reality. So, what are the challenges that you see coming up for it?
Yeah. So, one, this is really rooted in a textualist reading of the Constitution. Look, I am a proud partisan. I am a Democrat, but this is a bipartisan effort. There is a Federalist Society Republican who I work with on this.
Okay.
So the National Popular Vote Law is constitutionally conservative, state-based approach that retains the power of states to control how the president is elected. I think any of your listeners heard all of the things I said. Those weren't as conservative buzzwords that I didn't just use for that reason, but because it is the reality. It's the reality here. Of course, and the other thing I would note, right, is how popular the National Popular Vote Law is. A recent Pew study showed that 2/3 of American adults, 65%, say that the way the president is elected should be changed so that the winner of the national popular vote heads to the White House. This includes 82% of Democrats and 62% of non-MAGA Republicans. But it's widely popular. So you have the political support that is broad and deep and bipartisan, and a legal rationale that is conservative.
Right. Well, that's very encouraging. And public sentiment is everything too. The Electoral College, like I said, I don't know anyone who thinks the Electoral College is a good idea or serves our democracy at all. And this gives me a lot of hope that this could get passed. What is our... Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of hope, and I think the conditions are particularly ripe right now. Because I think that there are incentives for both Democrats and Republicans right now to further incentives to move to the system beyond it just being politically popular and making a hell of a lot of sense. On the Democratic side,
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just thinking out loud. In terms of Republicans, Trump didn't win the majority of the popular vote, but he did win the popular vote over Kamala Harris in the last election. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, he won the popular vote pretty convincingly and won new types of voters. And I think so. Let me on the Democratic side, look. We've taken a huge beating and need to deeply reconstitute ourselves and become a national party again. If we ever and talk to voters who we don't speak to, and reach out to new voters, hear what they say to rebuild into a party who can win nationally, which is increasingly challenging, and also and look. We clearly were deeply out of touch with lots of voters. And part of that is because we weren't talking to most of them. We had a narrow path. We talked to handfuls of voters and we lost touch. And I think that at a moment that being forced to compete in places we've never competed and and rebuild our party with new ideas that aren't just poll tested in Washington or the result of consultant brain being forced. Listen, I'm a Democrat. It's hard to sometimes be a proud one right now, but being forced to compete for every vote with voters who we have ignored is the way that we can win. The current system incentivized us to not listen to folks, not listen to things we didn't want to hear. And we have emerged as a party that the majority of the country thinks is out of touch. And a national popular vote would force us not to compete for handfuls of voters in a handful of swing states, but to rebuild our party with a message that works everywhere. And I think we are better for that. From the Republican side, and I don't look to speak for them, but as strategists there say, you saw Republicans win new voters. You saw Republicans make gains in places like New York or New Jersey or in South Texas. Those are places that under a national popular vote where they're competing. And I do think our politics gets better where when both sides have to just compete on their ideas. And if we Democrats have faith in our ideas, we should be willing to move to this system. People often ask me who stands against the national popular vote. And it is only people who are afraid of taking their ideas directly to voters.
Yeah. And that's mostly Republicans right now, to be fair, especially after Tuesday. And that's why they're, still trying to gerrymander and, do all that. But how can we help? So as activists and volunteers, people listening, how can we support this initiatives? How can we help build power and public sentiment in the states that haven't passed this compact yet? We do a lot of phone banking into those 7 swing states, and they get a lot of phone calls. They get really tired of that. So it'd be nice to spread some of that around a little bit too.
Yeah. Please call, particularly in Arkansas, Arizona, Michigan, North Carolina, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Virginia, and we can get this thing over the finish line and make sure that 2024 was the last election operated under this crazy, archaic system. And let's get a national popular vote in 2028.
That is really exciting to think that we could actually get that done by 2028. And like I said, that gives me a lot of hope. You're going to hate this last question though, because as we talked about before we started recording, I'm a very hopey person. You maybe not feeling that right now, which is fair given the state of everything. But the last question we ask all of our guests is, what is giving you hope right now?
The elections on Tuesday gave me hope that when we center individual people and offer them policies that will improve their lives and pass the smell test, that policies that will improve their day-to-day life on the issues and concerns that are most important to them, and we communicate that wins. I also got confidence that we can communicate effectively, that a new generation of Democrats exists, and that we should pave the road for them. And if leadership is not willing to do that, that is not a barrier to entry. And, there are so many conversations online and in spaces like this where it makes it seem like we are so divided as Democrats, and on lots of things we are. There are moderate Democrats, there are democratic socialists, there are progressive, there are liberals, but we are a party that can be all of those things. And if we stop firing inward and allow the candidates who make sense in the elections they are running in win, and that we can have a lot of success. That there is not one right way to doing this, and we have to be that. I saw like a different level of acceptance, and that makes me hopeful.
Yeah.
And also, I'll
agree.
just be honest that we watched, right? And look at what happened when that happens. In New York, we won, around, 9% of 2024 Trump voters voted for Zoran Mamdani. We won back a huge amount of Republican and independent voters in New Jersey. And the same goes in Virginia. We saw huge swings. So we have the right ingredients. We just need to do it more consistently, learn those lessons, and not rest on our laurels. We have big problems as a party. This was a roadmap that worked. So let's make sure we embrace it and learn the right lessons, but not think our work is done.
Well put. That is really the right way to go, because we have a year now, and voters, the public, have short memories. We have to, make sure that we are still reaching out and not taking this overperformance for granted in the midterms.
We should remember why we overperformed, which was communicating to voters. We understand that the status quo isn't working for you, and we are committed to upending it to improve your life. And we can't be afraid of saying that loudly. And it's not enough to say it. We have to do it and show that we are for real about it.
Love that. Alyssa, thank you so much. It's so great to be in conversation with you. Thank you for your great work. And of course, we'll have a link to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact website on our show notes so people can find it. And please do engage with it. I'm going to call my family in Oklahoma. I've got some Oklahoma family members.
I love it.
We'll see. We'll see. I try to stay away from political conversations for obvious reasons with them, but this one could break through. So, anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Steve. It was great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget that all of the links to our actions are in the show notes. So don't just listen. Click on those links, take action, do some phone banking into Tennessee. Please subscribe and rate and review on Apple, YouTube, wherever you find yourself listening. Share our show with your friends and family. Make sure we keep building this movement and make sure they're taking action to help us win. If you're able to support our show on Substack, we'd be very grateful for that. And you'll get the ad-free version of our show there. We'll be back next week with more Practivist Pod. And until then, don't forget, hope is in action.
Oh, no.